Tractate Sanhedrin, page 57. The idea of 7 Noahide laws, the 7 commandments that applies not only for the Jews, but for the non-Jews as well, is the core part of our discussion. Not only because it's a fascinating subject, but it's also something that have a lot of applications. It's a matter of fact that more than 2 decades that I have the privilege to serve communities, these come up all the time. What exactly the non-Jewish world obligated to do? It's a matter of fact that I heard several times from great people. Once I heard a talk from the late Lubavitcher Rebbe about the importance of teaching the non-Jewish world their obligation of 7 Noahide laws. So the structure of that, it starts from the idea of monotheism, meaning they believe in one God, that not only our beautiful faith group, but even the Muslims and others believe in the importance of the sanctity of believe there is only one God. So we start with the book of Bereshit, book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse 15 said, "And the Almighty commanded, Vayitzav Hashem Elokim," the Almighty commanded upon Al Ha'adam. The derivative from that is, in our anthropomorphic, in our human language, is God commanded the first man, Adam. We're getting to Rosh Hashanah, that's his birthday in several days. They believe in one God. They believe in the, which we call the court system and the 7 Noahide laws. Now, what are they, as we discussed yesterday? What's the order of what's the sources of those mitzvot? That's part of our talk today. But the structure is from that early part in the Torah. Now, as we said, there's a lot of derivatives. If you remember when we talk book of Ruth, we said that Ruth was formally the well-known biblical convert, sincere convert to Judaism, and we said that we have 613 commandments, so she is a non-Jew have a 7 Noahide laws. In addition, she have Ruth, which is a numerical value of 606. So that's the addition that she accepts upon herself upon converting to Judaism. So here we are. We start on page 56, 20 lines from the top, from the bottom of the page. Dinin bnei Noach ipkud. Is that true that the descendants of Noah, people who survived the great flood and have the new world with the new regulations after the well-known story of Noah and the ark, they are commanded, as we explained yesterday, to structure a court system. So what's involved? So, and we try to juxtapose that to a commandment that we commanded after Moses was, transmitted the Torah on Sinai. So they said, "Ve'atanya 10 mitzvot nitztavu Yisrael b'mara." So if you read in the book of Shmot, book of Exodus, chapter 15, verse 25, they talk about the different steps the children of Israel have during the time that they wander in the wilderness between splitting of the sea and entering the Holy Land of Israel. So after they crossed the Dead Sea, it was a place called Marah, and according to our tradition, both written and oral Torah, they teach the mitzvot, but particularly 10 commandments. So they said, 10 mitzvot, it was 10 commandments that our children of Israel commanded at the time that they are in Marah. Sheva shekiblu alehen bnei Noach. So he said that the 7 already commanded by the early time of Noach, and obviously there is a lot of comments, Binyan Shlomo, Maratz Chayut and others, why we need to mention them, it's obvious, but anyway, and then in addition, ve'osifu alehen dinin ve'shabbat ve'kibud avaim. They add to establish the obligation upon establishment a court system, the honoring and observing the Shabbat, the Sabbath, which is the Saturday, the sacred day, begin on Friday night when we light candles, and accepting the Shabbat upon ourselves. And the third one is the 5th commandment, honor your father and your mother. So if you tell me that this important mitzvah of dinin, meaning the mitzvah, the commandment of establishing a court system, that happened in a place called Mara, so it means in a way that that's not one of the 7 Noahide laws. So the conflict here is when you start structuring those 7 commandments and you tell me that that's something special and new and commandments that applies to non-Jews, which is the idea of establishing a justice, a court system, you see here a different source that that's not the story, since we already mentioned that as a part of 7 Noahide laws, yet we said that we have dinim, that we have the obligation to establish a court system. So here the Gemara elaborates. The Yad Ramah said, before they answer to that question, they need to understand what exactly involved with those special commandment that our people learned at the time of wilderness at that place in Mara. Dinin dechtiv. Now we zoom in that verse. The verse again, it's in the book of Shmot, book of Exodus, chapter 15, verse 25. They said, Sham meaning in that location, Sam with sin, meaning established, transmitted, law to the nation, Chok, it's the law, the justice, Umishpat, the system, which means it was establishment of rules that people should conducted toward the system of justice, any disputation, any conflict between a man and his, or in that sense here, follows. So they said, Shabbat, the mitzvah of observing the Shabbat, vekibud avahem, and honoring dad and mom, father and mother, dichtiv, because we have the set of the 10 commandments, which repeats twice. Here we are zooming in the second time in the book of Dvarim, Deuteronomy chapter 5. It's an additional several words that Moses add to the text of the original text in the book of Shmot, book of Exodus, and he said, honor your father and your mother, which we all know, right, the 5th commandment, but Moses added the word, ka'asher tzivcha Hashem Elokecha, the way that the Almighty God commanded you. V'amar Rav Yehuda, ka'asher tzivcha, Rav Yehuda said, you know what does that mean? When you use the term, as you Lord your God commanded you, it applies to a specific place, which is Bemara, in Mara. So it means that Moses said to the people, at that time, the mitzvah of establishing a judiciary, a court system, is not included as part of the 7 Noahide laws. So, obviously, there's much more to talk. Since we're short in time, I recommend to those who speak Hebrew to read in a book called Aruch Laner, wonderful book that he brought so much expansion on this subject, as well as my brother-in-law, Rabbi David Avraham Mandelbaum. He wrote this series of books called Daf al Daf, page on page in the Talmud, and he elaborates a lot on this page. As we said, we are limited with time. Amar Rav Nachman. So here we need to understand, is that part of 7 Noahide law, establishing of the court system, or it's something new that the children of Israel received while they're traveling in the desert? So Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravua, he said it on behalf of another rabbi, Lo nitzrecha ela le'eida ve'edim ve'hatra'a. So he said, here we need it for Eida meaning that we need it for the ingathering of certain structure of judges, which is, as we learned earlier many times, that a defender in a capital case is punished only by full panel of 23 judges of the Sanhedrin Ktana, of the small, in a way, the big one is 71, rabbinic court, any manner of capital punishment, which is very different than the, as we know, the non-Jewish system, and also ve'edim, meaning you can, by Jewish law, you cannot afflict any form of execution or any severe punishment without having two fitting witnesses that come and warn that person before he committed the crime, before he committed the sin. And number three, v'hatra'ah. So as we said, we need to have 23 judges, we need to have two witnesses, and number three, we need to have those two witnesses warn that person before he committed a sin. So that's forewarning before his transgression is part of the system. So yes, in a way it is true that the general structure of judiciary and the disputation between monetary disputation and other disputation should establish for a non-Jewish world as a part of the decorum of 7 Noahide laws. However, when it's come to Jewish law, it's additional structure for the court, which is, as we said, 23, two witnesses, and forewarning before the actions. So the Gemara challenge said, it said, Im hache, if that's the case, mai vehosifu alehem dinin. What we said that God, while the children of Israel wandered in the desert, they added, right? God, in a way, added to them the judgment. The details of pre-existing mitzvah will not be referred to as an additional of the mitzvah. So they said, so he said, the Noahide laws court system, it's based on the notion that Mr. A or Mr. B X amount of money is like almost like small court claims, and he take him to court and they try to do either mediation or to find some type of resolution, or as we said, the judge have the verdict. Versus when it's come to the Jewish people at the time of Marah, so it was this type of addition, which is involved with halachot, with Jewish law, involved with special fine that they put upon a people. So this is not halachot, not Jewish law that pertain to a basic performance of justice, but rather concern of additional fine for the guilty party. They were not giving to those general world of descendants of Noah. So the Gemara asks a question, Akati v'hosifu bedinin mi ba'alei. If that's the case, what do you mean by structured the wording here and said that the Almighty added to them more halachot, more rules that involve with judgment? What exactly you mean by saying that? Because it means that the children of Noah already have structure of judgment. So what exactly? So he said, yes, you have an Noahide laws, one of them is to establish a court system. Yet by us, we have a community obligation to establish a rabbinic court in each and every province, in each and every city. So we have kind of clear system that follow the manner of which the Torah instructed us. You mean to say that the general world don't have the obligation to establish a court system? It's not correct to say it, because if you read carefully the text, both in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 15, 16 and other places, they speak about establishment for a general public to have a court system. And those non-Jews that follow the 7 Noahide laws and the Torah structure, they have this serious obligation to establish a court system. So establishing a court system, it's establishing a court by all means. So they say, L'marava haidetana tana deve menashehu, the mapik dach ve'ail sach. So he said this is basically a mnemonic, like abbreviation, which is the school of Menashe will remove from the list the Noachide mitzvot, 2 mitzvot, which is Dalet and Kaf, which stand for Dinim and Birkat Hashem, quote unquote, blessing God, and insert instead of 2 special mitzvot, they have Samech Kaf in the mnemonic, in the abbreviation, standing for the prohibition against castration, and the prohibition against diverse kind, which we're going to discuss soon. So it's basically, in a way, replacing those commandments with others. The Talmud Daf Yomi Sanhedrin, now we zoom in his view. Sheva mitzvot nitztavu b'nei Noach, the descendants of Noach, which applies to a general non-Jewish world in general. It's the obligation to follow the 7 Noachide laws. Avodah Zarah, which is idol worshipping. Here's the word of the Rambam, Hilchot Melachim, chapter 9. A descendants of Noach who worshipped an idol using the idol's standard method of worship is liable to be executed. A descendant of Noach is not executed for any form of idol worship for which a Jew is not executed. And furthermore, the Rambam said, yes, it is a positive mitzvah by Torah law to appoint judges and policemen in every city, in every state. But he said the descendants of Noach are commanded to establish a court system. This includes the appointment of judges in every city and every province to adjudicate transgressions of the Noachide mitzvot and to warn people they behave properly. So all of that you can see more in the Rambam, Hilchot Melachim, chapter 9. So he said that's the idol worshipping. Second one is Gilui Arayot. Gilui Arayot, in general, it's like any form of either bestiality or forbidden sexual relation. Ushfichut Damim, form of bloodshed in any way, any manner of killing. Gezel or Gazel, meaning robbery. Ve'ever min achai, that's so cruel, taking part in animals when they are still alive, cutting it off and eat it. That's a prohibition against cruelty. That's applied to a non-Jews. And as we said, the story of Joseph in Egypt, that he cannot eat with the Egyptians, even if he was a viceroy king, when he said with his brother, because he cannot eat with them when they have been such a violation of the commandment, because that's part of the ancient Egyptian pleasure, according to our Midrash. Seirus, as we said, Seirus is a form of castration. And Vechil'aim. Chil'aim, it's the prohibition of diverse kinds. We'll explain it later. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Adam HaRishon lo nitztava ela al avodah zara bilvad. The first man was not commanded, which is soon his birthday on Rosh Hashanah, this upcoming Thursday. He was commanded on idol worshipping, and that's an important line. They said here, Shene'emar vayitzav Hashem Elohim al Adam. They said that the Almighty God commanded the man. So what does that mean? That we interpreted, Rashi said, Hashem elakuto al Adam, which means that we are prohibited by that and by the 10 Commandments, that we should not have other gods but the Almighty, the omnipresent, the only one God. So since the Torah repeats it in the 10 Commandments in the book of Shemot, chapter 20, we derive from that important notion. Tosfot said that this is the mitzvah that Adam, the first man, was commanded immediately upon birth. Others we added later on upon the survival of Noach and his descendants. Now that you can argue and says, how about the tree of knowledge that's prohibited? So Tosfot explained that that's not for the future generation, was just at that time for Adam and Eve. Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera Omer, Af al birkat Hashem. Rabbi Yehuda said, in addition, the whole idea of blessing, quote-unquote, God was also part of that decorum of prohibited act. V'yesh omrim af al adinim. And there are those who said that it also applies to building a court, building a system of justice. Now, Keman Azla, ואמר רב יהודה אמר רב, אלוהים אני לא תקללוני, אלוהים אני לא תמירוני, אלוהים אני יהיה מוראי עליכם. So in our language, God said, look, I'm God, do not curse me, since I'm God. Do not exchange me with another God, since I'm God. My fear shall be upon you. So basically, the way we see it, that's the Keman ki yesh omrim, to those who hold that that's the meaning of the word Elohim, God, in the Pasuk, which means that the phrase, I am the Lord your God, commanded the man, that's include the prohibition against blessing, quote-unquote, God, or God's name, and idol worship, as well as the mitzvah of establishing a system of governing law and justice so that the fear of God will be established upon the people. תנא דבן מנשה אי דריש ויצב אפילו הנח נמי. לא דריש ויצב מנען מילי. How do you know if you don't derive the understanding from that line on Genesis chapter 2, the word the Lord God commanded, so from where you derive it? לעולם לא דריש ויצב, הנה כל חדה וחדה בהפי נפשה כתיבי. He said that homiletically, each and every one of them is written in a different location, separately in the Torah. Now we go and zoom in to understand the concept. Avodah Zarah, the prohibition of idol worshipping, vegilui arayot, and the forbidden sexual relations are stated, prohibited to the children descendants of Noah. Page 57, Dichtiv ותשחט הארץ לפני האלוהים. The Torah tells us in the book of Bereshit, chapter 6, the land, the earth, reached a level of corruption that God decided to destroy it. And we elaborate and we explain what exactly happened. ותנא דרבי ישמעאל, בכל מקום שנאמר השחתה, anytime the Torah used the term of, in a way, corruption, אינו אלא דבר ערווה ועבודת כוכבים. Every time it applies either to a matter of licentiousness or promiscuous act which involve with a violation of the proper manner of intercourse, and the other one is the idol worshipping. The sources, דבר ערווה שנאמר כי השחית כל בשר את דרכו. So the first one, it's because they said, for all flesh has corrupted the way upon the earth. That's Bereshit, Genesis chapter 6. עבודת כוכבים נכתיב פן תשחיתון ועשיתם. So the Torah said in Deuteronomy 4, let you deal corruptedly and make you graven images, which is applied to idol worshipping. So you see here that the descendants of Adam, of Noah, prohibited these important two things, which is idol worshipping and forbidden relations. So you can say, the Birkat Avraham said that it was warned in advance. If you zoom in that text in Parashat Noach, chapter 6, Pasuk, verse 13, they said, Rashi right away said, לא נחתם גזר דינם אלא על הגזל, that the heavenly verdict, the decree, was because of their act of, I think the best way is to say robbery, which means that the Mefarshim, the commentary, said that they stole a small amount, פחות משווה פרוטה. So Re'em, which is one of the commentary on Rashi, said that it's a contradiction, because in one place, as we just learned, it applies to erva ve'akum, which is the improper relation in idol worshipping, and here Rashi said that it's applied to robbery. So there's a book called Shem Mishmuel, and he explained the pasuk Vayar Elokim. He explained the author, his name is Rav Shmuel Heller. He was the Av Bedin, he was the head of the Jewish community in Lvov, in Poland. So he brought Kli Yakar, which again is one of the commentary. What does that mean? Vatishachet haaretz lifnei Elokim, that the land corrupted before the Lord God, which is said that's apply Dayanim, because they stole pachot b'shaveh pruta in a small amount, and the Dayanim could not have it back by the structure of the law. So the Gemara in Shabbat 33b explained, Tzaddik nitpas ba'avon ador, the righteous person was basically, in a way, taking the responsibility for the entire generation. So because he can, shaya be'adol imchol, that he can protest against it. So what you see here, because it was pachot mishaveh pruta, they cannot do it. It was small amount. So the same way here, the Avodah Zarah and Gilui Arayot, that's basically Noach, Nitpas Avuram, Noach was the one who paid the price for them. But Gezel, Pachot Mishaveh Pruta, if stealing below than the value of Pruta, that's not sufficient to blame him. So that's, they said, Ketz kol basar ba lefanai, which is them and not Noach, kol basar, everyone. Ki mala haaretz chamas, because it's too much cases of people who behave in a dishonest way. Veidach or chayu kamegale. So other Tanaim, so he said the earth was corrupted before God, that descendants of Noach are prohibited from engaging in idol worship and forbidden sexual relation. So the Gemara said, in their opinion, the verse merely expressed the behavior of the generation of Noach. Shfichut damim dechtiv shofech dam ha'adam. How do you know they shedding blood? Because they said, clearly the one who shed bloods of a man shall happen to him. Veidach talayu hu de megalei. So the other one is they explain that in their opinion the pasuk reveals the type of death penalty administered to the descendant of Noach, but it is not the source of the prohibition of bloodshed. Gazel dichtiv ke'er kesef natati lachem et kol. When it's come to robbery, the pasuk said in Bereshit chapter 9, like the green herbs I've given to you all, which is Mamar Rabbi Levi Mikan Mamar Rabbi Levi Ke'er Kesev Velo Ke'er Gina. So first we derive from that the descendant of Noach can eat meat, but we also derive from that it's like the vegetation herb that spout all over by themselves and are ownerless, and not like the vegetation of the garden which belongs to the garden's owner alone. The other one is to permit consumption of meat. It's not applied to Isur Gezer. Ever min hachai, when it's come to eating a limb from a living animal, דכתיב אך בשר בנפשו דמו לא תאכל. So you have the clear pasuk that said all flesh with his life, which is its blood, you shall not eat. ואידך, and the other Tana says so permit eating limb from a living creeping animal. That's the prohibition does not apply to creeping animals. Seirus, when it's come to castigation, they said, "Dichtiv shirtzu ba'aretz pru uvuba." So the Torah said that basically you should be in the land, but they say swarm in the land and multiply it. So it means that nothing may be done to prevent reproduction. Kilayim dichtiv, and diverse kinds applies to the descent of Noach because it's written מהעוף למינהו, of the fall after its kind. ואידך ההוא לצוותא בעלמא, and the other, the ark was merely for the sake of companionship. As animals are most comfortable in the company of other members of their own species. Seirus dichtiv shirtzu va'aretz urvu va. Here we talk about the prohibition against castration. They said, the pasuk said in Genesis chapter 9, swarm in the earth and multiply it. So the idea is, the Mefarshim explain that nothing may be done to prevent reproduction. Obviously, there is a discussion, Gemara in Chulin and others, what exactly involved and how it's, in general we cannot do it. But Ve'idach libracha be'alma. And the other time said that it's merely a blessing, it's not any form of mitzvah. That's the way Rashi said. Anyway, kilaim, the prohibition of diverse car. So, meha'of lemineu, when the Noach commanded to bring the fall in his kind, so it means that each species must be kept separate, cannot mix them. There is a book called Sanhedrin Tana that he explained all the notion involved with that. There is also Zohar on that. Anyway, ve'idach, and how does the other react to that? So they said letzavta be'alma. So just the idea that they have a companionship. So it's nothing to do with diverse kind, Rashi said, but it's just to have these animals are most comfortable in the company of other members of their own species. אמר רב יוסף, אמרי בירב, על 3 מצוות בן נוח נהרג. So he said for the descendants of Noah is executed for violation, for transgression of the 3 mitzvot. So they said, in order to remember them, it's like pneumonia, it's just an acronym. They use the word Gesher, Siman. Gesher, it's bridge, but it means here the abbreviation of 3 important mitzvot. Al Gilui, Gimel, Gilui Arayot. Gilui Arayot meaning revealing forbidden relation, sexual relation. Ve'al Shfichut Damim, which is a form of bloodshed. Ve'al Birkat Hashem, which is blessing, quote unquote, the name of God. So in short, Rashi explained that according to Rav Yosef, even the sons of Noah are commended for the whole 7 mitzvot. They basically potentially executed only for the violation of these 3. So it was one of the commentary in the past generation, whose name is Aderet. He has a book called Megillat Simanim. So he explained that all these particular 3, it's according to Rav Yosef, but according to Rav Sheshet, it's also for Avodah Zarah, for idol worship. The question is, it's not clear, the whole notion of issue. There's a book called Turei Even, in the beginning of the 2nd chapter in Chagiga, page 11b, that tried to explain what the Aderet meant and what's the acronym here meant. But anyway, they said, Matkif la Rav Sheshet, Bishlama Shfichut Damim, Dechtiv Shofech Dam Adam. When you talk about bloodshed, so they said, Shofech Dam Adam, one who shed the blood of men. Ela Hanach Menalehu. How do you know the sages impose execution for the other mitzvot? Igamar mishfichut damim afilu kulu nami. ואם משום נדית רבה מאיש איש, עבודת כוכבים נמי יתרבה מאיש איש. Idol worship we also learn from the term anyone, a verbal analogy. The Aruch LaNer in Yad Ramah explains that it's a little different the way we see it here and there, but anyway, אלא אמר רב ששת, אמרי בירב על 4 מצוות בן נוח נהרג. Which is again, גילוי עריות, sexual relation, שפיכות דמים, bloodshed, ברכת השם, quote unquote, blessing of God, and עבודה זרה, idol worshipping. ועל עבודת כוכבים בן נוח נהרג, you mean to say that the descendants of Noach executed for idol worship. ותניא בעבודה זרה דברים שבן ישראל ממיתין, בדין של ישראל ממיתין עליהם, בנוח מוזרן להם, הזרה היא מיתה לו. So all the old notion of that din, that's Gemara on page 60. So any style of idol worshipping, the manner of which they do that, etc. זיווח, קיטור, ניסוך, השתחוויה, all different form. So they said, אמר רב נחמן בר יצחק, הזרה שלהם זוהי מיתתן. So the prohibition and the death penalty, that's basically the only punishment mentioned in the Torah for the violating of Noach mitzvah is execution. Any descendants of Noach who transgress is liable to be executed. רב הונא ורב יהודה וכולו תלמידי דרב אמרי, על 7 מצוות בני נוח נהרג. For 7 Noach had laws. גלה רחמנא בעדיו ובאים וכולי. So they tell us, and this applies to all the others. So he said, ועל הגזל בנוח נהרג, והתניא על הגזל גנב וגזל ויפת תואר, ואם עשה כיוצא בהן, כותי בכותי וכותי בישראל אסור, ישראל בכותי מותר, ואם היתה נייתי חייב, so he said, משום דקבאי למיתני ספר, ישראל בנוכרי מותר, תנא רישא אסור. והקולי חדית לה חיובה מיתנא קטני, דקטני רישא על שפיכות דמים, כותי בכותי וכותי בישראל חייב, ישראל בכותי פטור. הוא אומר, אתה מאיכה ליתני, ליתני אסור מותר, ותנא קוטי הוא רואה במה דקה לא מילים ולא מורידים. כיוצא בו בגזל. So here the writer brings the difference when it's come to this type of behavior, which is the difference between Kuti and Israel. And there are three different one. One of them is the act of robbery. So just few important points. First and foremost, this is a subject we discussed many times. What's the real difference between a robbery and a thief? As you know, robbery pays just the original amount that was stolen versus a thief need to pay double. So in short, a robber, the owner aware that he was robbed, and therefore the rabbi said he just need to return what he stole. The thief, the owner is unaware of. So in our language, is an extra fine for that, which is the same amount as was stolen, but is also a thought that the rabbis teach us. In a way, the robber doesn't fear anyone, meaning he doesn't fear people. He robbed, so he just need to return what he took. The thief doesn't have a fear of God. He feels like his God not watching, but he fears people, so he comes at night with no one aware of. Therefore, we impose on him the double payment. But here we said, כיוצא בו בגזל מהי, אמר רבך בר יעקב, לא נצטרך אלא לפועל בקרן. So imagine someone who's walking in the vineyard and is dishonest, and while he's walking in the vineyard, he, in a way, eats from the fruits of the vineyard. So it's very similar to robbery, because what he's doing is basically taking something that does not belong to him. And we said many times by halakha, if we're working for a company, one just should be careful. You want to eat a product from that company, for example, if it's a food, you need to get his permission. Even my rabbis used to say, if you want to use your cell phone or internet or other things, if you get paid, you should be careful. You should ask the question if it's okay, because they pay you sometimes per hour. A certain restriction is not always you're allowed to eat. So here we see the difference between Kuti and Israel. Getting close to Shabbat, so we have to run a little bit. פועל בחרם ממעט, בשעת גמר מלאכה היתר ההוא, אילא בשעת גמר מלאכה גזל מעליה, אלא מרב פאבה לא צריכה אלא לפחות משווה פרוטה. So we figure out if it's a פחות משווה פרוטה, if it's such a small value, we treated it differently. פרוטה is according to our Papa, is a very small amount. יחי כותי בישראל אסור, הבר מחילהו. Fellow Jew can let go, can forgive this type of. So he said, Nehili batarachi machile tzara b'shat mitleitle. But let's face it, even if forgive him, he still have a distress, he still have a sorrow at the time of the robbery. So as you see, as a result, at the time of the robbery, the robber commits such a sin that he is liable to be punished for that sin. So he said, Kuti b'chuti kayotze b'hen. The lab mechilal ninu. Gezel me'alyo. It's just the full-fledged of robbery. So this is so horrible that people don't pay the wages for the employee. We said you hire someone, the Chofetz Chaim said you make a deal with him in advance and you have to pay. Meaning you have to pay before the sunset to the person. It's not such a thing. This is a serious violation of Torah law, not paying an employee, not paying someone who's worked by daily the same time. So someone who's withhold the wages to a higher laborer. So here we try to differentiate in the state of Kuti. So say Kuti b'Kuti b'Israel asur. So it means Israel b'Kuti mutar. So that's a big discussion on what exactly involved. And there's so many rabbinic responses involved in the act of Chilul Hashem. I wish to have more time. Anyway, כיוצא ביפת תואר מהי? כי את הרב דימי אמר, excuse me, רבי אלעזר שאמר רבי חנינא, בנוח שייחד שפחה לעבדו ובעליה נהרג עליה. כי היוצא בו דשפיכות עמים לא תניא, אמר רבי אמא שקרא דתניא רבי יונתן בן שאולי, דתניא רבי יונתן בן שאולי אומר, הרודף אחר חברו לא God. This is a well-known case. If a person pursues another to basically to murder that person, and the one who's been pursued somehow, ויכול להצילו באחד מאיבריו, he can save himself by injuring one of the limbs of the pursuer. So here, for example, Rashi said that if he can allow to cut part of his leg in order to save another person, ולא הציל, but did not save himself in a manner that instead he killed the pursuer. 57, בי נהרג עליו. So is a ruchlaner here, it's so much to discuss. I want you to know that one of the most painful in rabbinic world is those responses involved in the Shoah in World War II. So you have cases like beyond horrible, how the Nazis walk in the Auschwitz, Birkenau, and they said to people like for fun, they want to kill someone, and people get excited. So the Nazis said, okay, what are you willing to sacrifice in order not to kill him? Someone willing to give his ear, someone willing to give his fingers, and things like that. So it was a painful rabbinic response. If is a chance to save life of someone, if we're allowed to sacrifice by taking away someone's part of his body, is based on the sugya. And as we said, it's a lot of response. We not have the time. You can see a little bit here in Gemarrah Rabbi is a book called Gemarrah Rabbi Aruch Laner, or even basic Rashi here. But אשכח רבי יעקב בר אחא דאב הכתיב בספר אגדת אביריו. בנוח נהרג בדיין אחד, it's enough to have one judge to judge, ובעד אחד, it's enough one witness when it's come to בנוח. שלא בהתראה, you don't need to have forewarning in advance, מפי איש ולא מפי אישה, ואפילו קרוב משום רבי שמואל אמרו, אף על העוברים. Again, we need to understand the concept of fetus, because a descendant of Noach who killed the fetus while he was in his mother's womb is liable to be executed. That's the language of the Rambam in Chot Melachim chapter 9. But you see the case of Mishneh, who said that it's all the big difference in the variation of how things happen and what the circumstantial evidence is crucial to understand when and where and how. מנהל מילה אמר רבי יהודה אמר קרא, we still have more time. אך את דמכם לנפשותיכם אדרוש. So, אפילו בדיין אחד, מיד כל חיה אפילו שלא בהתראה, אדרשנו מיד אדם אפילו בעד אחד, מיד איש ולא מיד אישה, אחיו אפילו קרוב. משום רבי ישמעאל אמרו אף על עוברין, מה יתמד רבי ישמעאל, דכתיב שופך האדם באדם, דמו יישפך. זהו אדם שהוא באדם, ואומר זה עובר שמאימו, ותנא קמא, תנא דבי מנשה יהודה אמר, כל מידה אמורה על בני נוח נולד לחנק. ושד עלי באדם, הסעיפא דקרא, ודרוש באחי אדם, באדם דמו יישפך ושפיכות דמים של אדם, שהוא בגופו של אדם, ואומר זה חנק. מה טיב רב אמנונה ואישה לו מפקדה, והכתיב כי דעתיב למען אשר יצווה. So he said, הוא מוטיב לה והוא מפרק לה. בניו לדין ביתו לצדקה, אומר לרב אבי ולסבא לרב פאפא, אימה בת נוח שיהרגה לא תהרג מיד איש ולא מיד אישה כתיב. אומר לאחי אמר רב יהודה, שופך דם האדם מכל מקום. אימה בת נוח שזינתה לא תהרג, דכתיב על כן יעזוב איש ולא אישה. אמר לאחי אמר רב יהודה, והיו לבשר אחד, because they said that there should be as one flesh, hadar arvinu kera. So the pasuk combine both men and women. So he said that the reality is that when it's come to halacha, is no difference between the two for this halacha.